Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz seemed to be heading for a parting of company. And I guess the question is, if you are Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, are you going to part company? And will you part company because of media narratives in Salt Lake City? It seems like the media in Salt Lake is actively working to drive Donovan Mitchell out of Salt Lake City. And I say that again because another article printed by what is supposedly the number one media outlet in Salt Lake City is negative and anti-Donovan Mitchell and talking about how there is a belief around the NBA that in 3 years Donovan will walk away from the Jazz, and that's why they have to trade him now, which is complete trash. There is no NBA executive that is going to trade a player today because, in 3 years he might walk away from the team. Yet this is what we get from what is supposed to be Salt Lake City's number one news source for sports and everything else. And Jake, I just don't understand why the media in Salt Lake City continues to run with this narrative that Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz need to end their relationship.
Yeah, I think that there's a number of issues here, and in my opinion, again, my opinion 100%, like I think the first issue is that, yeah, it is seemingly inaccurate information. First, if you look back over the last month, what did we get? They're definitely trying to trade Donovan Mitchell. They're calling around the league trying to trade Donovan Mitchell. Then it was, hey, the Knicks are super close to acquiring Donovan Mitchell, and I have text messages, and I'm in the know, and then nothing happened, and that didn't look great, and now we're here. And now we're getting articles about Donovan Mitchell. Danny Ainge wants to move Donovan Mitchell because in 3 years, Don will probably walk in free agency. I got news for you. That's not how it works. That's never been how the NBA works. And whether we're talking about Donovan Mitchell or LeBron or Bryce Harper in baseball or Juan Soto in baseball or whoever, right? Any big name player, GMs and executives are not going about their day saying, well, Donovan Mitchell is going to leave in 3 years, so I better trade him today. We're not there yet, man. You got 3 seasons to win Donovan Mitchell over. You got 3 seasons to build a roster around him and bring a winner to Salt Lake City. That's where we are. So I completely agree with the sentiment that, yeah, the media is negative on Donovan Mitchell, and I just don't quite understand it. Now, what I will say is there is some criticism that is warranted on Donovan Mitchell. Yes, the leadership needs to improve. Yes, the defense has to improve. Yes, the decision-making on offense has to improve. There are things in his game that he needs to get better with. There's no doubt about that. And last year is where everything kind of got to a tipping point. So it's not as though Donovan Mitchell is perfect, but I just think that this opinion or this narrative, if you will, that the Utah Jazz are just hell-bent on trading Donovan Mitchell is just not credible. I just don't believe it. And again, it's my opinion. And yes, some of it is off information that we've gotten, obviously, but my opinion is they're not actively trying to trade Don. We've been saying that for weeks. Like, hey, they're not looking to trade Don. They're not calling around the league, trying to get, every single team and their mom involved. But if someone calls the Utah Jazz and wants to talk to Danny Ainge about giving them their entire franchise for one player, then Danny's going to listen. That's unchanged. I'm struggling with this, honestly. Like we have talked about this ad nauseum. Frankly, we made a promise not to rip the media in Salt Lake City. But how do you explain this? This is one of the most ridiculous, unprofessional things I think I have ever seen. And I don't think it's just the Tribune either. Like we need to be really clear on this. I think it's multiple outlets in the Valley talking about how, like, everyone is just sure. They're just like 100% certain that the Utah Jazz are trying to trade Donovan Mitchell.
Well, it's not even the opinion thing that bothers me. Hey, your opinion on something that you see or something that you deal with, your opinion on whether the Jazz are going to trade Donovan Mitchell, hey, man, I'm all good with that. If you agree or disagree, that's what makes the talk world go round. Like we do a talk show every day. That is, if you read the comments on this show, you know that every single day people disagree with us, and we're good with that. We're good with that. The thing that I don't understand is you're the number one newspaper in Salt Lake City, supposedly. You are supposedly the source for Jazz news, supposedly. And yet you continue to put out pieces that are pure conjecture, that are pure fantasy, that are not based in any fact whatsoever. And I just can't comprehend it. I don't get it. And the thing that I struggle with so much is, if this was a one-off, if this was just August and the NBA news cycle slow, okay, maybe. But you're putting out a piece where you supposedly are talking to NBA sources saying, well, the Jazz have to trade Donovan now because he's going to walk away in 3 years. In 3 years, he's going to walk away, so you have to trade him now. There is no logic in that whatsoever. That's just not the way the NBA works. First of all, I've covered this league for 30 years. I've never seen a team be like, well, our best player, yeah, he's got a contract that ends in 3 years. We should trade him now.
We shouldn't sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie because they'll leave in a year.
Well,
2 years.
we just signed this guy to a 3-year extension. He may walk away. We should trade him now. Nobody thinks that. Nobody. Not a single person thinks that. And by the way, the other part of this is Donovan Mitchell's never said that. Donovan's never asked for a trade. He has never said, I don't want to play here. Who's pushed that? The media.
Yes.
Who's pushed this idea that, Donovan Mitchell thinks that he's too big for Salt Lake City? The media. Donovan's never even got anywhere near that. Never said that. I have talked to people in his circle. He has never said that. They have never said that. The Jazz have never heard that from Don. Yet we continue to get this garbage from the media in this town who wants to see a Donovan Mitchell trade. So they can stand up and they can say, oh, look at me. We were right. Okay, does that make you feel better? Like when they trade Donovan Mitchell, and I think it's still a possibility, when they trade Donovan Mitchell and you stand up and say, see, I told you so, does that make you feel better? Because I don't understand this anti-Donovan Mitchell sentiment that is being pushed by the media in this town. I don't get it, because I don't think it plays to what Jazz fans want. I don't think it plays to what readers and fans across the state want or feel or think. I just don't.
Yeah, and I think that the trouble is you're not writing based off of Donovan Mitchell's actions or based off of like what you're hearing, in my opinion. I mean, again, I can't emphasize this enough. What you were just saying, like, nobody in sports, this isn't just an NBA conversation. Like, in sports, you don't sign a guy to an extension who's your best player and then say, well, he's still got 3 years, but we'll go ahead and trade him because, he's going to leave. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And then I look at, this concept of, the negativity and not writing based on Donovan's actions. What have we seen from Donovan Mitchell? And I'm going to keep saying this thing until I'm blue in the face. What have we seen? We've seen work. We've seen work on his body, work in the gym, working on that mid-range. 2 weeks ago, we showed you video of Donovan at Brickley's gym working on his mid-range, his footwork, his touch around the rim. Like, he's showing you what he's doing, yet what do we get? Well, he's leaving. They want to trade him. He thinks he's too big for Salt Lake City. He's never said any of that, and yet he's shown you the work he's putting in, and this is what he gets. And that is my problem. I'm not saying that the media has an obligation to Donovan Mitchell, but as a media member, you have an obligation and a responsibility to write things that are based in at least somewhat fact. Like, you have a responsibility, in my opinion, to go, okay, A plus B equals C, not A plus Y equals G. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I feel like we are in this town with the media and nationally. I have not been nice about what Brian Windhorst has done on ESPN. I haven't been nice about what some of the other source guys have said and then had to backtrack on and fix and go round and round. I just don't think that it's being responsible to run all this stuff out about how they want to trade him and Don doesn't want to be here when no one's ever said that.
And most importantly, Donovan's never said that. And we keep guessing and we keep playing this game like, oh, well, he farted today, so that means he wants to be traded. Like, what are you doing? Why is it so impossible for the media in Salt Lake City to simply cover people at face value. That's the biggest question I have. And again, I just have never seen a media-player relationship like we've seen with Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz. I've seen contentious relationships. I've seen players refuse to talk to the media. I covered guys like Randy Moss, who just used to routinely walk through the Raider locker room with his middle finger raised on media days he was supposed to talk to the media. Like, I've seen the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. I have never seen a media that goes after a player on a regular basis, like as if there is an agenda on a regular basis. I've never seen it. And frankly, fans, I think you have to act. You have to stop supporting this. I told you months ago, after the Donovan Dallas situation, I canceled my subscription.
And what was that situation? Because I don't want people to forget.
The situation in Dallas was that the beat writer for the Salt Lake Tribune said something of opinion, and it was completely not true. And Donovan Mitchell got upset about it and went after that particular person, whose name I'm not going to mention, who went after that particular person on Twitter. And that was it. That was it for me. Like, you just can't continue. A beat writer is somebody that's supposed to deliver the news.
Yes.
Deliver the news. What's happening with the team? What is, give me a thorough breakdown of their salary cap. Like, deliver analysis and news, not opinion. Not, hey, I'm going to, I don't understand it. I am at a complete loss for words as to why the Tribune continues to do this.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I am not going to pay for their content. I am happy to pay for The Athletic because what I get from Tony Jones is valuable. I get analysis. Very rarely do you get Tony Jones with his opinion on what a trade should be, or that's just not how beat people cover teams. Your opinion is not the central focus. You're not a columnist. You're a beat writer. Give me analysis. Give me facts. Give me, hey, this happened with the team. Not, I think this is what was said, or he said this, or, hey, they're going to trade him now because in 3 years, like, no, man, that's not, I'm just done with it.
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. I've never seen a media outlet have this kind of agenda against one particular player.
Well, and I think the price
It's
the price you pay in the long run is Donovan leaving. You write stories about Don leaving when it's not true, and then you're surprised when he leaves. And then you're going to say, well, we were right. We were right that he's leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous to me. It's crazy to me. Like, why would you not be talking about, like, if you're going to do opinion pieces, write about Don's work. Write about, hey, this is where his game is based on what I'm seeing. Yeah. Hey, last season, based on numbers and based on tape, this is what the weak points in his game were. This is what he's shown us he's working on. That's what I'd be writing about.
Well, like I look at this comment on the show from Connor Tulin, and if you're just tuning in, we're talking about Donovan Mitchell, and the supposed leader in Jazz coverage in this town wrote another piece that essentially centered around why the Jazz would trade Donovan Mitchell, and it's because he has 3 years left on his contract, and sources say he will opt out of the contract after he will walk away from the Jazz.
Just like sources said they were
3 years.
Just like sources said they're going to trade him to the Knicks imminently, right?
So Connor Tulin says he's spending his offseason in two cities that are in rumors for him. Like he has every single year as a professional, he's spending time in Miami and New York. He's a New Yorker. He's a Westchester kid. His personal trainer is in Miami. David Alexander is his body man.
Yeah.
And he's LeBron's body man. And he is David
Industry
Alexander
leader.
is in Miami. Donovan Mitchell has always spent a lot of time in Miami. Donovan Mitchell has always spent a lot of time in New York. His dad works for the Mets. He is from Westchester. He works out with Chris Brickley, who is his basketball coach, his personal basketball coach, who is in New York. So Connor, He always spends time in Miami and New York.
Why is it news?
By the way, he spent time in Louisville. Does he want to go back and play basketball at Louisville? Does everywhere he was in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago? Does that mean he wants to be traded to the Lakers or the Clippers? Or like you can't do that. You can't do that. The thing that really bothers me is you're spending so much time trying to draw lines between dots that you're not appreciating the guy as a player.
Infowars.com.
And listen, I think again, you know, if you watch this show on a regular basis, this show, we live by the moniker that we are the truth in Salt Lake City sports talk. That's what we deliver you every day. And from what I understand and what I hear, I talk to people at the Jazz, and by the way, I said every time we talk about the media here, they came to us. We did not go to the Jazz. They came to us, right? We talked to people around the NBA, and they've all said, yeah, there's a chance he still gets traded. It's probably going to be in late August or early September if it happens, but most people put it at the common percentage is about 70-30. Donovan Mitchell does not get traded before training camp opens. Most people believe he will go to training camp with the Jazz. I personally think they're going to still try and trade him to the Knicks. I know that the Knicks are still very interested in Donovan Mitchell. It's a matter of how many draft picks will it take to get him. But when Donovan Mitchell's gone, watch those who stand up and jump up and down and say, I told you so. I told you so. Those are the people. Those are the ones that you should watch closely. Because anybody celebrating the fact that the Utah Jazz are trading a talent the level of Donovan Mitchell has an agenda.
Yep.
Anybody celebrating the fact that the Jazz are trading Donovan Mitchell, a guy that is exactly what prototypes of today's NBA player are made of, has an agenda. This is not a guy you want to trade. Any organization trading a guy the caliber of Donovan Mitchell is in trouble.
Yeah.
It is not a good thing. Anytime you trade somebody like Donovan Mitchell, it is a negative thing. So just keep that in mind as we talk about this story today. And I just am amazed by it.
Yeah.
I am amazed. And I'm curious how much impact the media has on Don. Because I know he pays attention. I know that he pays attention. I know he watches the headlines. I know he watches Twitter.
Yeah.
I wonder how much the media impacts him. I think it's a pretty significant amount.
Yeah.
I
think that, certainly it doesn't impact him more than like some of the other studs in the league who have their fair share of fun on social media that we all know and love, like the Durants of the world or whatever. But yeah, I think if you're a guy the caliber of Donovan Mitchell, yeah, you're definitely going to pay attention. You're definitely gonna watch what people are saying. And again, it needs to be said. Like, I think that's why, the Dallas bench thing played out the way it did. That's why he spoke out on Twitter. I think that's why, Donovan Mitchell has been silent. Do you think there's any confusion around the idea that he hasn't said word one this offseason? Well, I got news for you. People are saying, well, he's not saying anything because he wants to be traded and he wants to do it quietly. And I'm sitting here telling you he's not saying anything because all the news is negative and, hey, he's leaving. And all this guy's gone and done is worked his ass off the whole offseason because he knows there's a ton to prove. He knows now that Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt and all these guys are here. And maybe some of those guys get moved, sure. But he knows what's on the line this season in Salt Lake, assuming he's going to be here. So that's why I say, like, I just, I understand that in the summer it's slow in the NBA. I get it. But as a beat writer of a major outlet, you have a responsibility to do your damn job. You're getting paid to cover the team. So cover the damn team.
Yep. Let's see. Back in the comments, Daniel Westover gives us a $5 tip. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. By the way, if you're here watching the show, please give us a thumbs up and a like. It really does help the show grow. Appreciate everybody who tips us. Appreciate everybody who likes and follows the show. Thank you. Daniel Westover says, per sources around the league, Andy Larson will be traded to New York for some real beat journalists. I appreciate the tip. Thank you. This is not an Andy Larson issue in particular. I have voiced my displeasure with Andy, and it is what it is. My issue is with the Tribune.
Yeah, this is so much bigger than one person, dude.
Yeah, the Tribune tolerates.
Yeah.
The Tribune pays their writers, man. Those are the guys doing the job. If they didn't like what those guys were doing, they would say so. They would say so. And I know for a fact people at the Jazz have told me repeatedly they do not like and they do not go out of their way to help the Tribune because of stuff like this. So the Tribune knows exactly what they're doing. Ramsey10 says, good morning. Yeah, the media. This isn't an Andy Larson thing. I don't want to make this personal with Andy. I really don't. I don't know Andy. We have never met. It's not personal with Andy Larson. This is not an Andy Larson thing. This is a Utah Jazz, Salt Lake Tribune thing. Andy is the beat writer for them. That is a well-known fact. Neville93 says, good morning, guys. These people are pathetic in this state. Well, I would point to not the people because I think Jazz fans are great.
Look, it needs to be. I want to be really clear on this. This isn't a one-person issue.
No,
right? Like to give one person credit for this entire issue would not be correct. The issue is that the caliber and the quality of coverage is not good enough. Like you're not. As a newspaper in a dying industry, let's be very clear, the newspaper's dying. I hope everyone's on the same page with that. It is dying. You can get it on your phone, but you got to pay for that, right?
Yes.
So when there is coverage nationally, and you've got guys like Tony Jones at The Athletic doing great work, when you're at a local paper like the Salt Lake Tribune doing the work you're doing, you have an obligation to do better. It's literally your job to write better content than, hey, yeah, they need to trade him now because he's leaving in 3 years, or there was some issue. Like, and that's why I say this isn't a one-person thing. That's not the point of the conversation. The point of the conversation is guys like Brian Windhorst, guys like any national guy on TV, like, I just don't like the inconsistency. One day we get, he's being traded, and we get memes from Brian Windhorst getting an Emmy Award for his acting on ESPN. Like, I just get tired of it, bro. I get tired of it. We have heard things and been told things that we intentionally did not say on the show or intentionally did not report because we couldn't back them up factually. We could not get confirmation. We could not get, credible sourcing on it. So we didn't report it. And that's the obligation you have that I feel like nobody follows. Yeah,
I really struggle with it, frankly. I want better from the media. I grew up in Chicago, which is one of the best newspaper towns in the history of this country. I grew up with a media that holds people accountable. You look at cities like Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco as one of the best media groups in the country.
Look at what they're doing to these golfers, bro.
You look at the European media. Salt Lake City deserves better. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I would say again, watch where you spend your money. Watch where you spend your money. When you have to subscribe to something, it better be good 9 out of 10 days. Mm-hmm. And the Salt Lake Tribune is not. You deserve better. If you are paying for a digital subscription, you deserve better. I'm not telling you not to subscribe to them. I will never spend another penny with them. Not when their structure is as it is. I think you're making a mistake doing that. Support The Athletic. That's what I would tell you. Support the Deseret News. I happen to think Sarah Todd is a very good feature writer. I think she's good at what she does. I think Tony Jones is one of the best beat writers I've ever been around. And I support The Athletic with my dollars. I will not support the Salt Lake Tribune. There's too many opinions mixed in with fact.
Yeah.
Where they try to pass opinion off as fact, and it's not. And I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
And then it gets picked up nationally, and then the narrative starts spinning, and that's the other issue. Like, I guess my biggest thing here is I want more integrity. I want more professionalism in the role. I want more like, hey, I have a responsibility because I'm me to make sure that the things that I report and that I write are based in fact. And if I don't have anything fact-based to back up the idea that they're going to trade him now because he's leaving in 3 years, I probably shouldn't report that. What I should report is that, hey, yeah, there is a lot of controversy around Donovan Mitchell. Hey, yeah, there is a lot of talking nationally. But what's this guy doing? He's working his ass off to be in shape, to improve his game. And when he comes back and puts up 30 points a night, as you've been saying, don't be surprised. And as you said, hey, the people who celebrate when Don leaves, watch those people. Take note of who those people are. No pun intended.
When those people celebrate, and you will see it. You will see it. those people will celebrate. And those are the people you need to watch, because I'm telling you, I've been around Jordan. I've been around Kobe. I've been around Steph. I've been around Shaq.
You
I've
were
been
LeBron's
around
first
Magic.
game.
I've been around LeBron. I have seen the very best talent the NBA has ever had to offer. Donovan Mitchell, while not currently in that class, has the ability to be there. And if you celebrate him leaving your team, the day that Michael Jordan put on a Wizards uniform, I said I regret not enjoying it and not realizing how lucky we were as Bulls fans to have him. When Shaq left the Lakers, I said, hey, Laker fans, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you realize how lucky you are to have Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes.
And now you don't. Like the day that Kobe died, everybody was like, man, I wish I'd appreciated him more.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, if we've seen Don play his last game in a Jazz uniform, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you appreciated.
Yeah.
I hope that you recognize how special and talented he is.
Facts.
Dennis Levy, thank you. I think it's Levy, Levie. Levi?
Levy.
Levy?
I think it's
Okay.
Levy, yeah.
Dennis, thanks for the $2 super sticker. Good morning to Erica Schultz. Erica, good to see you. Dennis Levi. Morning, boys. I'm a big Celtics fan. What are your thoughts on our performance in the playoffs versus how we played in the championship? You need Jason Tatum to take another step. And frankly, I don't know that Tatum and Brown ever win a championship together. Because they were close, but they weren't really that close. You're in the finals, which is great. You won an Eastern Conference championship now. Now what? What's the next thing? And the indication is that they very clearly tried to trade for Kevin Durant, which tells you that there's a good chance that the guys running, Wick Grossbeck and company realize that they don't have what it takes to win. So, I would be I'd be excited if I were a Celtic fan. Daniel Westover says Larson's trip piece is trash. It's 100% speculation, full of stuff like there is a sense around the league that Don feels this way. Why not try doing some actual journalism? That's my point. The problem is, and here's the issue too, Donovan Mitchell is not available. Not during the season, not in the offseason. He's not talking to the media.
Mm-hmm.
He is a guy that does it begrudgingly. In my opinion, I don't believe that he trusts the media in Salt Lake City. And why should he? Because he's had multiple run-ins with the Tribune, and I think perfectly justified. I don't know why you would trust the media here. Because if you look at the real media in this town, I don't know that that's a thing.
Yeah, I don't know that it exists.
And the issue is, again, is that the media in Salt Lake City is all owned wholly by the church.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not owned by the church, the Jazz are in your pocket. It's that simple. And when you are KSL, you're owned by the church and the Jazz are in your pocket. So are you really going to get unbiased reporting? No. Are you ever going to hear the truth? No. When you look at the Zone doesn't give you unbiased reporting. The Zone does not give you unbiased opinion. Look at, PK last week, Patrick Kinahan, or I guess 2 weeks ago now, with this story about how the trade is imminent and I'm going to go on another show on the station. And then he retracted that. He backpedaled as fast as one humanly possibly can. The trade is imminent. It's going to happen. My phone's blowing up. And it never happened. And then it comes out that it wasn't close. And as we told you, they hadn't talked at that point for 10 days.
He broke up with you over text message?
Right? But why is he backpedaling? Because I'm sure the Jazz were not happy about that. And I'm sure that he didn't run that by the people he's got to run that by. And you look at the Tribune, their lifeblood is the Utah Jazz. You look at the Deseret News, their lifeblood is BYU and the Jazz. Is anything owned by the church ever going to be critical of BYU?
No.
Never. Who owns KSL? Who is currently managing the Zone Sports Network?
Mm-hmm.
Bonneville. Who owns Bonneville? The church owns Bonneville.
Oh.
So the Jazz, BYU, look at the Utes, ESPN 700. Look at RSL, Real Salt Lake, ESPN 700. There's no unbiased media. You're looking at it. You're looking at it. This is it right here. Because there is not a radio show in this town. There is not a newspaper columnist in this town. There is not a beat writer in this town that in some way, shape, or form doesn't have a leash on.
Yep.
Because of their relationship with the team. The Salt Lake Tribune is by far not unbiased. Look, I mean, again, another example. Hey, Don's got 3 years left on his contract. He's going to walk away at the end. They should trade him now.
Hell no.
3 years from now.
You know how much time 3 years is in the
Well, how
NBA?
different are the Jazz than they were 3 years ago? How different is this team than it was 3 years ago? How different are the Knicks than they were 3 years ago? How different are the Nets than they were 3 years ago? Look at what the Warriors went through in the last 3 years. Do you have any idea how much changes in this league in 3 years?
Yeah, dude. Dude.
Come on. Prismac from Poland, my
From
Polish
Poland,
brother.
how we doing?
Or maybe we should give a match to Draymond Green to pair him with Vanderbilt. Imagine Green and Beverly together on the court. That would be insane. I can't even imagine that. I cannot even imagine that. What's going to happen in this town when the Jazz win a championship? I have no idea.
Change. I mean, nothing's going to change. You know, I think that if they were to win a championship, I mean, it would be great for sports here, obviously. Like, I mean, that would be amazing. I would love that. But I think that not much is going to change, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's an interesting thing to contemplate. That is an interesting thing to contemplate. M. Alvarez says, hey, Tribune, this is what run players like Don out of town. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
But
that's what it looks like.
And again, I think it really needs to be said. I don't have an issue with, like, you know, independent, like, hardcore accountability reporting. I don't have an issue with that. In fact, that's what our brand is. We're telling you the truth in Salt Lake City sports, right? Like, that's what we do. But what I have an issue with is making things up or just not being, you know, somehow there is a fly down here.
But I don't know.
I don't know how that's possible. Anyway, the point is what I don't have an issue with is, you know, factual accountability led reporting, but I do have an issue with the making up thing or like the stretching thing, as I like to call it. You know, that comment about, like, you know, the feeling around the league. What the hell does that? That's my issue with Windhorse and some of the other guys. Like, the feeling around the league. What does that mean? It's like a great example, and this is no fault to Woj at all. Woj just doing his job, right? Totally just doing his job. But look at what happened. So Woj, you know, tweets one thing, and then a week later will follow up on that tweet because that's absolutely his job, and he does a damn good job of it. He'll follow up and say, hey, you know, sources or the feeling around the league or, you know, whatever the case may be. And then everybody in Salt Lake takes that and says, oh, they're trading him. They're 100% trading him. It's over. That's the issue in this town. There's not a 1 + 1 = 2. There's not a stream of information leading to the answer, which is why we've been saying for how long now, hey, yeah, if someone calls Danny Ainge and gives them the farm, yeah, they might trade Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, they might. But they don't want to trade Donovan Mitchell. They're not out shopping Donovan Mitchell. We've been saying that for weeks now. And where are we at with the whole situation? Right where we started.
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. Chiron 26 says, I wonder what would happen if people started to boycott these media outlets. I'd love to see it. Dax Johnson. Dax, what's up, bro?
Johnson.
Morning, boys. Worked 17 hours yesterday and back at it again today at 6 a.m. And guys, keep me going through the day. Go Cougs. Thanks, Dax. Appreciate you being here,
Dax,
man.
and way to be a workworkhorse, man. That's not easy, bro.
Darn right. Antonio Ruiz says, if he was so happy there, it's an easy question to answer. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know that I would classify Donovan Mitchell as happy. And I don't know that is
happy where? What do you mean?
In Salt Lake. I don't know. I don't know. One of the things I always say is I don't speak for players. I don't speak for people. I just think you're playing a dangerous game. And Donovan Mitchell's a grown-ass man. When he wants somebody to know he's unhappy here, trust me, they will know.
Oh, it's like the Kyler Murray thing, right? I mean, Kyler Murray didn't say anything, and then the contract thing happened, and all of a sudden he's on a podium. I mean, these guys will
Funny
speak.
how that works.
Yeah, they'll speak when they feel like they need to speak.
Ruff's official, good morning. He says, I bet Donnie has to be traded. Watch, it will come out after the trade that he asked for it. Could be. I mean, I'd be shocked. We have heard repeatedly from Don's people, from league sources, from the guys we talked to at the Jazz have all said he's never asked to be traded. That Donovan Mitchell has spent this summer being very quiet. He has had pretty regular contact with the Jazz. At the end of the season, they had very productive, honest, blunt conversations about where he was, where they were. He is known for going on 9 months now that they were going to trade Rudy Gobert. Donovan Mitchell's known that.
Yeah.
And Don has never, not one time, asked to be traded from what I've been told repeatedly. And could that be incorrect? Sure, it could be incorrect. Donovan is in Germany right now. Donovan is on vacation with his family, still working out, still playing basketball.
You think he's going to sign with the German league?
I just think that if Donovan Mitchell was going to demand a trade, it would have been very public by now. It would have been very public because I am no fool. I am not blind. The Jazz talk to us when they need something in the media. That's the purpose we serve, which is why we don't just hear from the Jazz and go running to the microphone. You have to bounce what you're hearing around the league and confirm it.
Yeah.
And we have confirmed multiple times Donovan Mitchell is not asked to be traded. I can't say it any simpler than that.
And by the way, I have to say again, and I'm going to keep saying it, we have heard things and been told things that we were unable to confirm, which is why you don't know about them, because we didn't say it. That's the responsibility you have in the media.
And the funny thing is, we have heard those things. They'll show up in the Salt Lake Tribune and then be debunked. It's remarkable to me how many times that has happened.
Hey, guys.
I don't see it in the Deseret News. I don't see it in the Athletic from Tony Jones, but I see it in the Salt Lake Tribune. Like we will hear some crazy rumor. Nobody else will confirm it. One person will say it, and then we'll try to get it confirmed. No confirmation. And then it'll show up in the Tribune. And it's not surprising. It is not surprising at all. That has happened 3-4 times.
Yeah.
3-4, easily, probably 3-4 times in the last 6 months. That's happened. And it's mind-boggling to me. Spencer Morgan, good morning. Trading DM now does make sense if you've decided to rebuild and if you have indications that he won't resign when his contract is up. I don't think his contract being up is any part of their thought process, even a little bit. It is the idea that you would trade Donovan Mitchell because something's going to happen in 3 years is ludicrous.
And it doesn't add up with what we've been told and what we've reported. Like, think about it. Why would you, 9 months ago, when you told Don ahead of schedule that you were going to trade Rudy Gobert, right? Like, we told you they were going to trade Rudy Gobert, and then a couple weeks later, we also told you that the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell have a relationship where they can tell him, hey, this is what's going to happen with this player, and we want you to know before anybody else knows, right? So why would they do that? Only to then, after the season, go ahead and trade him, right? When he's not publicly requested a trade, we've been told, as you just said, not to repeat what you just said, but he's never asked for a trade. It doesn't make sense.
No,
we're
not
going
at all.
off of, respectfully, Spencer, and I'm not trying to go after you, man, but I just want you to see it from my side. You're going off of tea leaves. You're going off of rumorville. Like read it one more time.
Trading Donovan Mitchell now does make sense if you have decided to rebuild and if you have indications that he won't resign when his contract is up. Better to get trade value now.
So if you decided to rebuild, if you have indications, there's a lot of ifs there. The fact is they don't have indications he's going to ask for a trade or not resign. There hasn't been any behavior that suggests a rebuild yet. As I've told you repeatedly, I think you're not in rebuild mode right now. You're in retool. You're in, hey, we're going to be a playoff team through this process. That's not a rebuild.
If you were rebuilding, why did you take Malik Beasley? Why did you why did you bring in veteran players? Like, I think if they were completely rebuilding, you likely would have traded Donovan Mitchell first
to the Knicks.
They haven't done a lot of things that make you think they're retooling or rebuilding. Much more of a retool.
Yes.
That to me is what.
And that's what I'm saying. I want to make it really clear. I'm not trying to take you through the ringer, Spencer, but that's what I mean when I say, hey, there's a lot of conjecture. There's a lot of, the feeling around the league if they have indications. There is no feeling around the league. They don't have indications. That's the issue.
Connor says it's about optics. Why not say I'm a Jazz man?
Now, I agree with this. I do agree with this side of it. Donovan has had opportunities to solidify his position. Now, it doesn't help him. By speaking does not help him.
Nothing he says is
Yeah, I mean,
him.
it doesn't help him. He's not incentivized to say anything, but I don't disagree with the comment that it takes literally 30 seconds to tweet or maybe even update a bio, because that's the level of pettiness that people are at in the world, where you can
totally
say,
is.
You can say, like, I'm a Jazz man, or, like whatever he would say to make Jazz fans feel better. And that's truly, if I'm being honest, that's what I think the issue is. I think that people are insecure about the Jazz just being a garbage, god-awful basketball team for like 5 years, that they want to ride this train of, well, they're trading Donovan, we're going right back into negativity-ville.
Well, and I just don't think players of this generation care to use the media. They just don't.
Yeah.
They don't trust the media. The fake news narrative that's been going on in this country for 6 years, like
Twitter's been going crazy.
I think there is just a general lack of accountability in the media, as we're talking about today. I think there's a lack of trust from the athlete to the reporter. I think that's why relationships matter. That's why getting raked over the coals on Twitter because, a player came after you, that matters. You don't ever get over that. You do not ever get over it. It's why you have to be held accountable by your bosses in media. It's why you have to, frankly, you have to hold yourself to an incredibly high standard.
Think about the position, and I have no problem saying this. Think about the position we're in on this show. We're referred to as those little guys on YouTube.
No, the hacks on
hacks on YouTube.
Spence Checkets routinely calls us the hacks on YouTube.
So if we get one thing wrong, just one thing, our credibility's gone because we're not ESPN 700, right?
We don't have the built-in advantages that others do, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
but it's why we don't. It's why we don't take risks on this show. It's why. I'm just telling you, man, like this whole Donovan Mitchell thing is crazy.
Yeah.
It is. It's
It
crazy.
is the ultimate cesspool of reaching and stretching, for sure.
Kenai Johnson, good morning, KJ, says there's a new generation in the house of Jazz. Jazz fans have gotten used to the old generation trading our star players. This was a transition from old to new. The Millers were stuck in the old. The Millers, frankly, once LHM passed, with all due respect to Gail, she was not building a winner. She was building a cash machine. They were selling cars. They were selling movie tickets. They were built to make money for their other businesses. That's what the Jazz did. Mm-hmm. And frankly, they did it very well. They sold a lot of cars. They filled a lot of theaters. They did very well with that. But when Ryan Smith bought the team, the clear edict was to win a championship. And I think that's why you had to let Dennis Lindsey go. That's why you have to bring in a guy who, frankly, doesn't care what you think, and Danny Ainge, and you have to turn him loose.
And he will every single time.
And I think that's what you've seen.
And that's why they traded Rudy Gobert.
So Spencer Morgan says, seems like you guys would have us believe that all the national media and Andy Larson are just making things up. And when Don leaves, it's not because they were into something. I'm not saying that people are making things up. That's not at all what we would have you believe. What I would have you believe is there's no reason to write this shit just because the news cycle is slow.
What facts are
Nobody, hear me clearly on this. Nobody in the NBA is making a trade because of what's going to happen 3 years down the road. Nobody. I've been in this game too long. I have covered the best executives in basketball, from Jerry West to Bob Myers to Danny Ainge. None of them, not a single one of them, are making a trade because their player's under contract and he's going to walk away in 3 years.
Facts.
In 3 years. And if this were the first time, I could almost write that off to, well, it's August and it's a slow news cycle. But it's not the first time. It's like the 100th time.
And it won't be the last.
And as far as the national guys go, there's only one. And it is Adrian Wojnarowski. Shams has not really been a Jazz guy. He's not somebody that routinely breaks Jazz news. I know factually that Adrian Wojnarowski is very highly connected with the Utah Jazz. They talk to him. They give him information, as they should, because he can be trusted and he has been honorable. I look at the situation with the Tribune. The Utah Jazz do not talk to the Salt Lake Tribune. They have not. They will not. This current locker room, I think, as much as it is changing, as long as Donovan Mitchell is here, they will not talk to the Salt Lake Tribune. They won't. Agents, players, executives in this organization have told me they do not trust the Salt Lake Tribune. They do not believe that they can go to the Salt Lake Tribune and give them information that it will be handled responsibly. The Jazz do not talk to the Salt Lake Tribune.
Yeah.
And listen, man, Spencer, you can say that we'd have this or that. It's just not accurate. We're talking about the body of work, period. The body of work at the Salt Lake Tribune lacks ethics, it lacks credibility, and it certainly lacks professionalism. To write this piece, to say that in 3 years, NBA people believe
The feeling around the league.
the feeling around the NBA is something's going to happen in 3 years?
Come on.
Get out of here. Like, I'm telling you, this is why this will play a role in Donovan Mitchell's departure from this team.
And for all the new listeners,
just will.
I want to say we're independent. We're not married to anybody. We don't have bosses. Like, we own this show. This is what we do.
I am not invested in the outcome of the Utah Jazz. If the Jazz win a championship, it is far better for this show than if they're terrible.
Yeah.
Because if the Jazz are terrible, Jazz fans are hiking. They are not watching YouTube. If the Jazz are, if the Jazz are in the playoffs, if the Jazz are making runs, if the Jazz are trading Rudy Gobert and bringing in a haul, Jazz fans are engaged. If you trade Donovan Mitchell and it's neither good nor bad for our show. If you trade Don and they tank and they lose for the next 5 years, it's not good for us at all.
Yeah.
So our investment is in winning. Our investment is in, hey, here's what's happening with the Jazz. That's what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. Our investment is in current events, not what's going to happen in 3 years, which you cannot predict.
Which, by the way, I also think that what's happening with the Utah Jazz, this conversation we're having this morning, is super relevant to what's happening to the Utah Jazz. Because, again, this coverage absolutely affects guys like Donovan Mitchell or any of the other names that you know. Is it, by the way, is it any secret? And I thought this was a little tidbit when Royce got traded. Any surprise that Royce went to Summer League? Any surprise that Royce did was kind of out in the eye? He was being seen. When's the last time you saw Royce O'Neal do anything?
Working with Donovan's trainer now. Working with David Alexander. Almost every day, David Alexander posts a video of somebody like a Don. Somebody like Royce. Yeah. I think Royce has been on David Alexander's Instagram story 10 times. Like, very clearly. And this is why Ben Simmons went to Summer League.
Yes.
Because a guy like Ben Simmons knows how to leverage the media. Donovan Mitchell isn't talking to the media because, frankly, I just don't think he cares to give any information.
Yeah.
Why would he?
And that includes us, by the way.
What is the win?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ty Sullivan is very difficult to get a hold of. He is very difficult to get a hold of by design. When's the last time somebody quoted Ty Sullivan? I have his cell phone number. I have his email. I text him. I email him. I might hear from Ty Sullivan 1 out of every 10 times. Might. 1 out of every 10 times. They don't want narratives about themselves from themselves in the media. They just don't.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with it. I don't have a problem with it.
Yep.
And this is why I say when you guys are asking, well, why not just come out and say you want to be in Salt Lake City? For what? What's the win? What's the gain? What does Donovan Mitchell have to gain by saying, oh, yeah, I want to be in Salt Lake City. I play for the Utah Jazz. He put out on Instagram last night. So the Jazz, I think it was Twitter and Instagram. The Jazz tweeted a picture of Donovan Mitchell dunking on the New York Knicks. Everybody was like, oh, my God. And then Donovan replied with a video on Instagram of himself dunking on the New York Knicks. Oh! So they hate each other? So they're posting videos back and forth? This is ridiculous.
You see what I mean?
It's ridiculous. I'm amazed by it. I'm amazed by it. Casey Finland says shipping Gordon Monson on down the river from local radio media after the sale of the team is a sign that there is no trust in the Trib, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Gordy is a guy that is a very interesting example. Gordon Monson is kept alive in this town by one thing, and that is Spence Checketts, who has him on his show occasionally. But the idea, and Gordon Monson is a very interesting guy in the general landscape of Utah media. Mm-hmm. Because I think when you look at Gordon's performance, like think about what was Gordon Monson entertaining to you on the radio? Could you in any way, shape, or form relate to Gordon Monson on the radio? No, you couldn't. Gordon Monson projects as a 7,000-year-old man. Like he projects as an older guy who talks slowly. He has that deep voice, which is great. Go write me a column. Don't get on my radio station. Mm-hmm. But how long was he allowed to exist at the Zone? How long if you listen to the voices in this market that are on the radio, can you really relate to DJ and PK? I don't even know how old they are, but they skew much older, right? If you think about the guys that are on your radio on a daily basis, and I know radio listening is way down and everybody says
it's
ad
dying
spends and you know, I listen, I totally understand that. People listen to the radio on a limited basis, I think. But if you listen to the radio in this town, who can you really relate to? Can you relate to Spence Checketts? Well, his family are billionaires, and I think that separates him from a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But Spence is probably the most relatable one. I mean, if you look at anybody else, and without naming specific people, you look at anybody else on the Zone. Like, I don't know what Uncharted or whatever it's called in the afternoon. Like, I might have been able to listen to that show 3 times in my life. Mm-hmm. Like, I just can't do it. I can't. Like, those guys, like, there's a show on the Zone. There's a show on the Zone. I flip on the Zone the other day. We're driving to a client meeting. Mm-hmm. We flip on the Zone the other day, and they're talking about how the MLB trade deadline is this and that on the wrong day. Oh, it's today at this. No, it's
they
not.
said it was Monday, and it was actually Tuesday.
They said it was Monday at noon.
Yeah.
And it was Tuesday at 4. Like, you're not even in the ballpark. You're not even in the ballpark.
See what he did there?
Right? Like, but you look at a lot of these other issues, and they just don't know. Like, listening to, with all due respect, listening to Hans Olsen try to talk Jazz is painful. Now, Hans Olsen talking BYU, fantastic. Hans Olsen talking Jazz basketball is brutal. Mm-hmm. So my point is, you can't rely on what's on the radio here. You cannot. And again, everybody says, well, you're just ripping the media because you can't get in. Everybody has asked us. Everybody has asked us.
Yep.
A year ago or whatever, people were asking us, hey, bring your podcast here. Hey, you guys want to do this? Hey, you guys want to do fill-ins? Hey, no, we don't. We don't. And it's worked out splendidly, frankly. We have more. Do you realize on this show that we are doing about 110,000 viewers in the state of Utah, which there's not a radio show that wouldn't kill to have 110,000 listeners. We're doing 110,000 a month. And it's not because I think we're special or great. I think there's nowhere else to go. I honestly think that. I think we work very hard to put on a good show every day.
Yeah.
You know, our advertisers are fantastic. Like, we have great ad partners, whether that's Devery Davis at Academy Mortgage, Steve and the guys at BBQ Pit Stop. Like, the outpouring of ad support, the number of people wanting to advertise on our show is incredible. And we appreciate that. I honestly think it's not because we're special or unique. I just think that there's not a whole lot here to listen to.
Yeah, man.
There's not a whole lot here to watch.
Yeah.
The other amazing thing is, do you know how difficult it is to stream anything on your phone in this town? Do you know how hard it is to figure out where can I listen to Jazz talk on my phone?
Well, right here.
Right here. Like, that's why I think we have the advantage we have.
Yeah.
Honest to God. And because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're the best show, or that's up to you.
Again, that's opinion.
That's up to you. I'm never going to sit here and tell you we're the best at what we do. All I can tell you is we're very fortunate to have landed when we landed and where we landed. Because if I never come here in 2013, if I don't move to Utah in 2013, we're not having this conversation now.
Yeah,
So,
100% true.
Anyway, speaking of our advertisers, we want to remind you that we are sending a listener and a +1, 2 people going to see BYU and Notre Dame in the Shamrock Series at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on October 7th and 8th. You get a pair of tickets to the game. You get 2 nights at the Palms Casino and Resort. And we're giving you a $250 gas card to get you there. And it is all presented by our good friend Devery Davis at Academy Mortgage. NMLS number 278-545-801. 543-9666. 801-543-9666 is the number to call him. Devery's written 3 mortgages for me. He has written mortgages for just about everyone that I know. Devery Davis can be trusted with your money. Your money in mortgage right now, you're at a critical time. Rates are low. They have plummeted over the last 7 to 10 days. Days on market for homes is huge. Prices of houses in Utah are plummeting. There is an opportunity right now for you to buy a house, but you need to walk into that house with the ability to be a cash buyer, and Devery Davis will make you a cash buyer. Because the other thing that's great about Devery Davis is you're not just going to a mortgage mill. You're not going where you're going to be file number 69. You're going to a place like an Academy Mortgage and Devery Davis where he's going to know your name. Hey, Steve, it's Devery Davis. Hey, Devery, how are you? Like, I am only friends with Devery because we've done business together. And that's how the guy is. He's your friend for life, man.
Yes.
You're gonna do a mortgage with him. You're gonna send your friends to him, your family to him, because you trust him, because he takes good care of you. It's one-on-one personal service, whether you want to call him, text him, email him. Devery's great about getting back to you. His staff is fantastic. You go to Devery, you say, okay, hey, great, let's apply for a mortgage. Let's get pre-qualified. He works with you one-to-one. His underwriter is great. Like, everything that Devery does is done perfectly with you in mind, and that's why you trust Devery Davis when you're ready to write a mortgage. Call him today, 801-543-9666. Even if you're not ready to buy a house because you think you can't afford a down payment, that's just not the case. He's got programs. Devery at Academy Mortgage has programs to help you afford your down payment on the house that you want. He can get you into the house you've always wanted.
Facts.
You just got to make one phone call. 801-543-9666. Devery Davis at Academy Mortgage. NMLS number 278-545. Devery Davis and Academy Mortgage are equal housing lenders. And, of course, our friends at BBQ Pit Stop. They're amazing. Every location in Utah has an enter to win box on the counter. We personally went to every location this past week. We were up in Logan. They actually have a live butcher at the barbecue pit stop in Logan.
Is wild, man.
It
Absolutely.
is.
Like the Yoder selection. They have a full butcher. Like, and again, we've been shopping at barbecue pit stop for years. I mean, literally years. We have an Ironwood.
Back in the K-Fan days, barbecue pit stop was one of the early supporters of K-Fan. And I think that's a big reason why we're in business with them now. Because they're just good dudes. It's like a lifestyle thing.
Yeah, and you walk in there, and the funny thing is, like, you walk in there, and they're like, hey, what's going on, man? Like, they're super energetic, young guys. Like, they know what they're talking about. And I don't have, like, 1,001 questions to ask them. Usually I know what I want when I go in there. But I have in the past asked them, like, hey, man, I'm doing fish, and I'm frankly not a big fish guy. But Mrs. Monty is a big fish person, loves her some halibut, loves her some salmon, whatever the case may be. I had no idea how to season a fish, but they did. And they helped, and my golly, that thing turned out great, like really good.
And I know that owning a smoker or buying a smoker seems intimidating. It's not, though. Like, you're going to go into barbecue pit stop in Logan, Lehigh, Layton, Salt Lake City, Murray, or St. George, and you're going to say, hey, you know, I've been thinking about buying a smoker, but it seems like it's not. They're going to teach you how to work it. They're going to teach you how to set it up. And if you get into a situation like, man, I don't know if I can make a brisket, you can go back to them. You can call them and say, hey, you know, I bought my smoker from you guys. Or even if you didn't, you can say, hey, you know, I have a Traeger, or, you know, I have a Yoder smoker, or a Big Green Egg, or a Camp Chef. Like, I'm going to do a brisket. Can you guys give me some tips? Like, how do I season this thing? Or
yes.
How long do I need to leave it on? What temperature would you guys recommend I cook a brisket at? Boom. They can tell you, all right, hey, XYZ, do it this way. Try this. Wrap it in foil. Put it in a cooler. Put it on this. Like, that's the best part about BBQ Pit Stop. They're just guys. And you get, one of the things you'll notice about all of our partners on this show, they're small local business owners. Guys like BBQ Pit Stop, Steve and the guys at BBQ Pit Stop, in every one of those stores, those are all small business owners. Devery Davis at Academy Mortgage is a small business owner. Our guys at Max Muscle in South Jordan, Taylor and Caitlin, those are small business owners. They're here, they're local, they're Utahns. Like,
so when you guys came out on Friday and crushed it, that was amazing. Like, that was exactly what we need for our show to keep growing.
You pumped money into the local economy, and we appreciate you. That's how this show works. We need you to move your money to our advertisers. We need you to go buy smokers. We need you to go to, and, hey, call Devery Davis and get qualified for a mortgage. That's the stuff that we do. And as you see, more ad partners will be coming on. That's what we need from you guys. And you do such a good job of supporting us. And I think that's, one of the reasons we do things like a BYU flyaway or drive-away. We're going to have a Utah promotion coming up. We're going to have a Denver Bronco game promotion coming up. The reason we do this stuff is because we want to give back to you.
Yes.
So if you want to go and see BYU and Notre Dame at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, get to these BBQ Pit Stop locations on the screen: Logan, Lehigh, Layton, Salt Lake, and St. George. There's an enter to win box with our ugly faces right on the front of it. Fill out the slip, drop it in the box, and then come and see us Saturday, September 17th, BBQ Pit Stop in Lehigh. We're going to have a watch party. BYU and Oregon are playing at Autzen Stadium in Eugene that day. We're going to have wings, pizza. We're going to have free food for you. And then at halftime, we're going to draw the winner, and we're going to give away the trip for two to see BYU and Notre Dame in Las Vegas. You get a $250 gas card to get you there, 2 tickets to the game, and 2 nights at the Palms Casino Resort. And it's all presented by our good friends, Devery Davis at Academy Mortgage, and all of our friends at BBQ Pit Stop in Utah.